All right, good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing? You get some coffee? It's pretty nice when I get coffee halfway through the service. That's pretty nice setup, right? I have decided in the last 5 minutes I'm blaming everything on my wife today. So just know she's coming home to a lot of blame tomorrow. Whenever she a couple months ago she's like, "Hey, we want to do a mom's weekend." She said. I said, okay, whatever. And then I went back to John. I go, you get 1 day, you get 2 days and one night. And she goes, we'll see. And I go, all right, well, I'm going to be late to church that day, and I was late to church this day. So I saw a video, and I love this. Nick Saban was hilarious, and I hated his guts because I'm a Clemson fan. We had to play him 4 years in a row, and that was super annoying. And but he has some really interesting talks he gives people, and he's talking about going fishing with a guy. He said this guy kept catching these big fish and throwing back, and he'd keep these small fish. And he goes, eventually I got so annoyed with him, I said, hey man, what's wrong? What's going on? Why do you keep doing this? He goes, I only got a 9-inch pan at home. And he asked the question, how big's your frying pan? How big's your frying pan? Because what happens in our minds oftentimes determines what we do with our lives. And we're starting a series this week called Winning the War in Your Mind. And I'm breaking two molds of the ones that I don't normally do. The first is this. I read two books this summer. One is called Don't Give the Enemy a Seat at Your Table, which Tammy then read and said it was awesome, so she agrees with me. And then I read another one that I wanted to have up here, but my wife's out of town, and so I don't know where the book is. And I'm not winning the war in my mind right now, but that's okay. And the other one's called Winning the War in Your Mind by Craig Rochelle. And what I usually hate to do, and I don't want to do, I'm borrowing a lot from these guys, even the sermons they would end up preaching and ideas and illustrations they had, because I just thought these books would really resonate with our church, would really help us in this stretch of the fall that's going on. And I just wanted to give them credit for Louis Giglio and Craig Rochelle for the help they've offered me. And then the other mold is I'm doing something. The first mold is something I never do. The second mold is something preachers never do, which is I'm talking about something that I've not already mastered. Sometimes when you hear preachers talk, they go, like 4 years ago, I really struggled with this. And no, I am at the moment in my life where I am not an expert at winning the war in my mind. I can, in a moment's notice, find myself losing the battle. I don't think I lose it easily, but it can happen at any moment. Where in the flash of time, I can look up and find I'm sitting in the dirt of frustration and discouragement and what's going on and why is all this happening, and I can lose this war just like anybody else can. But it's a fight worth winning, because your mind is a battlefield, and how our minds work and how our minds think affect the rest of our lives. This is what the Bible, if you have your Bibles, our big verse for the day is going to be 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 3 through 5. And this is what the Bible says about the mind as a battlefield. It says, For though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. The weapons we fight with are not weapons of the world. On the contrary, they are weapons that have divine power. Divine power to demolish strongholds. These are not the bunker busters you hear about in the Army or Iron Man or whatever. These are not those. These are stronghold busters. These are not worldly weapons that we would give the army to go defend our nation. No, these are weapons that we would use fighting our minds. They have what the Bible calls. This is not just some cultural term out there. This is what the Bible calls divine power. I want you to think about, what do you think about when you think of a weapon that has divine power? My mind went three places. One was the sword of truth in Sleeping Beauty, where it gives him the ability to fight against the evil dragon and slay evil. Or the wand in Harry Potter that gives him the power to fight evil forces, and it chooses its wielder. Or Excalibur that it determines who will be able to hold this weapon or not. And that's what I think of. I think of some sort of special thing that's going to be like, it'll give me the power to interact with extraterrestrial things. But when the Bible says, here, I'm giving you weapons that have divine power. They're not here to fight against people or against monsters They're here to fight the battle in your mind. They demolish strongholds. A stronghold is something you build after the fighting stopped. If you have a hill and I want that hill and my army comes up and we take that hill, we now have the hill. But all you'd have to really do is turn back around and start fighting again, and then maybe you could take the hill from me. But if you go away for a week and a half and you go, you know what? I'm going to just let you sit there and I'm going to recoup a little bit. And then I'm over here on top of the hill building up fortifications and I'm building up strongholds and things that help me. The fight for that hill is a lot harder now because I now have fortifications. And every day I have that hill, my strength on the hill gets stronger. The Bible is saying that there are things in your life, things in your mind, the way you think, that are strongholds. They've existed there so long that they're hard to get down. They're hard to beat. They're hard for you to get rid of. And here's some questions. If you have a stronghold, you hope and pray I'll never preach a sermon on it. If it's ever brought up to you, you receive it as if it's a personal attack or an offense. You've tried 1,000 times to stop, but you just doesn't seem to go. I've grown up with people saying to me, I could stop if I wanted to. I just don't want to. And that usually is not true. Usually it's something we'd like to try to stop, but we can't. And here's what the Bible says about these weapons we have. It says, we demolish arguments with every pretension that set itself up against the knowledge of God. So what it's saying is, God's telling you one thing, your stronghold's telling you different. God's telling you one thing, your brain's telling you something different. And it's going up against the knowledge of God. And so this is what we do. We take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ. The things that go flying through your brain. The things where you go, well, no one's really in charge of what they think, are they? Well, kind of. The Bible thinks we can be. Those things that go flashing through our heads, those negative thoughts, that self-talk that goes right into our hearts and determines how we're going to live our lives. Those things, the Bible says, no, don't just let them run wild in your life. Don't just let them sit there. Don't let them get to the place where they're what we call normal. Take them captive. Pin them to the ground. Make them obedient to Christ. Because Satan wants to build strongholds in your mind. With one negative thought, one lie, one discouraging statement at a time. Until finally he has a fortress in your head. And he shapes your thinking every day and you don't even realize it. And if Satan can shape your thinking, he can take you captive. And if he can take you captive, he can control your life. And you'll spend the rest of your days saying words like this: you're not good enough. You'll never succeed. You'll always be addicted. You'll never have a good marriage. You'll never amount to anything. You'll always be unhappy. And we can just sit there and let these thoughts run wild in our minds. And every time we accept one of those statements and we believe the lies, Satan's put one more brick on that stronghold. And so God says, don't let that happen. He said, don't let them do that. Don't let it just sit there. Don't let the negative thoughts go in there and just sit there forever without you addressing it. Don't let the lies of this world or lies of Satan determine how you'll live and how you'll think about your life. Don't let it happen. You are in charge of what you think about. You are in charge of what you fill your head with. So take them captive so that you can demolish arguments and pretensions that set themselves up against the knowledge of God. And take them captive and make them be obedient to Christ. Because here's the big idea, and I want you to see. Your life is always moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts. One way to translate Proverbs 23:7 is this: for as he thinks within himself, so He is. And this is one of those areas where science has agreed with the Bible entirely. Science has gone on to teach us that our brains have neural pathways, and the way we think and the way we operate create little grooves, and they shape our brain in certain ways. And as we do this, we create habits in our life. And we create things, and as we live one action more and more and more times, that action becomes easier. As we say something more and more times, that statement becomes easier. As we believe something, as we do something, the more we do it, the more it becomes routine in our life. And we're creating these pathways and these trenches in our brains that create habits. And the habit guys, the people that write about habits, has anyone read The Power of Habit or anything like that? Anyone? No? It's great. Well, everyone, okay. The Power of Habit was an awesome book. You should read it. It's Charles Duhigg. But they'll all tell you the same thing. That this mechanism that the humans exist with is a blessing and a curse. Because habit formation is just a mechanism God gave human beings. We are creatures of habit. Many of the things we do every day of our lives are habit. Have you ever thought about what side of your mouth you start brushing your teeth on every single day? You probably haven't, but you probably start in the same place every single day. Because it's habit. You don't have to think about these things. But it's a blessing and a curse. Because that mechanism will be at play. It will be happening in your life. And the good things, and the good thoughts, and the good activities that we give ourselves to, they can create good habits. And the bad things, the bad thoughts, and the negative activities in our lives can create habits that become bad habits. You are creating habits in your life, whether you want to or not. Our job is to take captive the thoughts we live, to choose the ways we want to live, and create in us good habits that produce good things in our lives. And this is a hard battle. But because habits are real, and because that's a real part of the human brain, we tend to take things that are said to us and adopt them as true. You ever have those words that go cycling through your mind? You're not good enough. You'll never be good. Don't even try. You're a waste of time. All those sort of things. The longer we let those sit there, the more we assume they're true. Joseph Goebbels, who was like 3 or 4 under Hitler during World War II, he said this. It's a very famous quote. He said, "A lie told once remains a lie, but a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth." You're not going to stop everything from going flashing through your mind, but you don't have to let it sit there. And when we start allowing the lies that are being told to us to become truths, we go from this: if you believe you're not good enough, then you won't even try. If you believe you don't know what you're doing, then you won't do anything. And if you believe that you're a failure, then you will find a way to fail. You will believe the lies that are sitting in your head. And so, we've got to win this battle. We've got to get out of these trenches. Because if we don't, we will die in those trenches. They will sit there our whole lives. And we've got to fix them. So let's do this. Let's do a thought audit. How about that? How about we do this? On your bulletin when you came in, you had a sheet of paper, and it says, on one side it says worried, and the other side it says peaceful. Why don't you grade yourself real quick? Do you tend to be worried or peaceful in your thought life? Do you tend to say, well, something's bound to go wrong, something's going to happen, I can never have enough of this and never have. Where do you sit? Where do you sit? Are you worried or peaceful? Or are you just kind of like, hey, my husband's got it taken care of, I'm fine. Or my wife's got it I don't have to worry about it. God's got me good. I'm good. I don't know these people. I don't see eye to eye with them. But where do you fall on this? All right, what about the next one? Negative or positive? I remember hearing John Maxwell say one time, if you wouldn't hire somebody to follow you around all day and say the things you say to yourself, you probably shouldn't say to yourself either. If that's not something you're willing to have somebody, hey, you come say this to me all day long, because that's what I say to myself, then don't do it yourself. But how do you talk about yourself in your mind? How do you see yourself when you look in the mirror? How do you view yourself? Are you negative about yourself, or are you positive? Are you happy about what God's brought you? And then finally, worldly or eternal. This world's all I got. I can't be generous because I got to take care, or I can't do that. I got to make sure I'm okay, or I can't go serve over there. I have to take care of what I have right here, right now. Or do you go, God's got a plan for my life. He's gonna do great things in my life. He wants me to do amazing things. Where do you fall? And the question we have to answer is this: is anybody in the twos or threes? Anybody ended up in the twos or threes? Yeah. Well, you might have a stronghold. You might have some working out to do with your brain. But here's the deal: if you wrote down 1, 2, 3, or 4 anywhere on your list, here's what I want you to know. It's worth knowing. It's worthwhile to know it. It's worthwhile because when you know that's what you deal with, you can actually deal with it. If you have no idea that that's there, you have no idea that that's the thing you have to deal with, you don't even know how to address it. And so, here's what the book of James tells us. It says this: if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Why? Because where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and every evil practice. Isn't that a fascinating line there? The reason you should be okay knowing and acknowledging that you have these things going on in your heart and in your mind is because you know if those are there, you're going to find disorder also. You're going to find other things, compromises, evil practice, right? These things other things are going to be there. And so if you're lying to yourself, oh, no, I don't have any selfish ambition. Oh, I don't have any envy. Then that thing's sitting there in plain sight and it's just hiding from you. And so what we do is we acknowledge it. We be honest with ourselves. And this is why Jesus said, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. That in this battle between the strongholds in our minds and the lies that we believe, the lies that drive us down, the battle we have, the weapon we have, is truth. Is the truth of what God tells us. The truth of His grace and His resurrection and His redemption and His love and His kindness and His acceptance and His mercy for all of us who struggle in so many ways. The battle is between truth and lies. Jesus says that the devil has always been a liar. And when he lies, he speaks his native tongue. But we have a God who tells us the truth, and the truth will set us free. And so here's the strategy that we have as people fighting the war in our minds. 1, identify the biggest stronghold in your life. Like, what is it? Like, what is the thing? Just say it to yourself. You don't have to say it out loud now. I guess you could if you wanted to, but I'm kind of preaching a sermon. But 1, identify it. And 2, name the truth that demolishes it. What is it the Bible wants you to know about God and about you that would make you say, wait, that's a complete lie. Oh, I believe that my entire life. And the entire time, it's been a lie. As we discover our strongholds, as we discover the things that cause us to think and act certain ways, we can then learn how to avoid them. We have a tree in our backyard, and it has this patch of some sort of an ivy. I don't know what it is. But the kids will run around the tree this way and that way for whatever they're trying to do. If something's over here, they'll run that way, and something's over there, they'll run. And they have this dirt path cutting the shape of a V through that ivy because they run all over it all the time. And it's just complete dirt because that's the path they've taken. That's the thought life that they've lived their entire lives. And every time, they would never think about running a different way through that ivy because they have an easy way to go, the dirt path that they've created. But then there's times in life where they kind of move on to something else and they don't find themselves running those directions anymore. And what do you see? The ivy growing back, going back to look like it did before. And what you see, that's how our brains are. Our brains, these strongholds in our minds, they don't get destroyed. They don't get like blown up. What they do is they get healed. The way we think about ourselves, the way we feel about ourselves, they start to heal. And what happens is, as our brains heal and as our strongholds start falling apart, our hearts begin to beat again. We begin to breathe again. Our anxieties begin to lower because we're not living under the constant pressure of lies. And here's the deal. So what we need to do is identify our strongholds and identify the truth that destroys them and avoid those strongholds. But how do we do that? It's pretty easy to just talk about on a Sunday morning, right? Well, just avoid it. You know what I mean? Just avoid it. I was watching a guy on YouTube, and he goes, "You want to completely change your life? Commit to anything at all for an entire year." I go, "Yeah, of course that would change my whole. I would be a different person." But everyone does that every single year. They're called New Year's resolutions, and we stop on January 9th, okay? Like, of course, if I could do anything for a year, that would change me because I would actually be a different person. But what's something we could actually do? Like, what's something that was like actually within the realm of something that's possible for someone like me? Well, I saw this talk by John Acuff, and he gave this great piece of advice. He says this: here's what I want you to do. I want you to shorten your pity parties. You're going to feel them. That frustration is going to show up. You're going to feel down on yourself. You're going to feel stupid sometimes. You're going to feel like no one ever loves you, no one ever talks to you. You're going to have those pity parties show up. Okay. Feel them. Have them. Think those thoughts. But shorten the amount of time you do. Because here's what happens. Sometimes you ask somebody what's going on, and man, they're like, you know what? I'm just not doing very well. My kid's sick, or my wife said something dumb to me, or I did this, or, you know, and then you go, okay, that's kind of annoying, and those things happen, and that's frustrating, right? And then they just kind of keep talking farther and farther back in history, and they go, and you know, I got evicted in my 20s, and that was kind of lame, and I had a college professor who was never fair to me, and did I ever tell you that I got picked last in recess? And you're like, recess? That was 35 years ago. What are you talking about recess for? But they're still having the pity party from recess. And what happens if you don't ever put an end? Okay, have the pity party, but put an end to it. Shorten it. Because what happens is if this pity party is allowed to go on forever, when the next hard thing shows up, now you're carrying two things. And then the third thing, and then the fourth thing, and then the fifth thing. And instead of growing a skill set in our lives where we say, okay, bad things happen, and this hard thing happened to me, but I'm going to deal with it, I'm going to let it roll off my back, or I'm going to handle it and move forward. Instead of building that skill set, we then just have this giant backpack of pity parties all over us. And no one wants to be your friends for some reason. We got to shorten our pity parties, because the strongholds in our lives will not die voluntarily. They're not going to go without a fight. But it's a fight worth having, because your whole life can be different because of it. Take every thought captive. Be in charge of your pity parties. Okay, I'm going to feel this for a day, and I'm going to get back up. You know what? Let's practice right now, all right? I want you to learn how to say, oh, poor me. Everybody say, oh, poor me. Oh, poor me. Okay, some of you really like to say, oh, poor me, and you got shy on me for some reason. I don't know why you did that. Oh, poor me. Really feel it. Oh, poor me. Oh, poor me. All right, now get back up. Oh, you got quiet on that. You're supposed to say that part too. Okay, all right. Now talk to yourself, all right? There's a psalm writer that says, why are you downcast, O my soul? He's talking to himself. Oh, poor me. Oh, God, you're not getting off the hook, guys. For any guests in the room, we don't normally have this sort of call and response thing. Now, let's get back up. Take captive of every thought. Well, you don't have to. Okay, we're going back to the sermon part. My bad. My bad. Okay, that's me. That's on me. My bad. Next week, I'm just going to print out all manuscripts. You just have them. We're all say it together in unison. Take thought every captive and make it obedient to Christ. Here's what Paul says in Philippians. Finally, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right or pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Be in charge of what you think about. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice. Put it into practice. Be in charge of how you live out your life so that you can start working on developing good habits, grace habits, habits of Jesus in your life. Because as we take our thoughts captive and make them obedient to Christ, here's what Paul says. If we do this, the God of peace will be with you. God has made it to where you and I have the ability to be in charge of our lives. And He wants us to be in charge, to take our thoughts captive and make them obedient to Christ. Here are some lies that Satan tells, and here are some Bible verses that I want to read to you. When Satan lies to you and he says, you'll never be able to do it, God says you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. When Satan says you'll always struggle with fear, God says, do not be afraid, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. And Satan says you'll always be alone. The truth is, the Lord Himself will be with you. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. Satan says, you have to do more. If you ever slow down or stop, everything will fall apart, and it will all be your fault. God says, come to me, all who are weary and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Satan says, you don't have what it takes. God says, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in your weakness. You know, we sang a song today called Strong, and the bridge said, I'm strong even when I'm weak. That's because God's grace is made perfect in our weakness. That even when we're weak, God is strong in our lives. Satan says, you have no future. You have no hope. And God says, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you. Plans of hope and a future. And when Satan says you're incapable of accomplishing anything worthwhile, God says, I give strength to the weary and increase the power of the weak. God has given us His Word. He has given us His Son to give us strength in times of need, strength in times of weakness, courage in times of fear, grace in times of shame, mercy in times of sinfulness and brokenness. And one of the things that's so frustrating about the strongholds that we experience in our lives is so many of them developed accidentally. I didn't ask for it. You didn't ask for it. Nobody asked for it. Some of us, they happened when we were kids. It's something I've grown up with. I'm going to blame my entire life on an 8-year-old child? I have an 8-year-old child. It's hard to hold that kid accountable for almost anything. But I blame myself when I was 8. I blame myself all day long. And I'm living with these things that happened, some of them accidentally. You know, when Jesus was dying on the cross, one of the things He said, Father, forgive them, because they don't know what they are doing. If Jesus is able to plead your forgiveness, can we be willing to accept it? Can we be willing to give grace to the person who gave us what we're now living with? Because we have a God who has great plans. We have a God who has great ideas for our lives and great things He wants to do in us. And by His Son, Jesus Christ, He can forgive all the sins we've committed. He can break down all the strongholds, and He can renew our lives and make us new and take us into a new life through Him. And it's where the old is gone and the new is here. But we have to accept that forgiveness. Jesus used His dying breath to beg for that forgiveness, and we have to accept it. We have a battle in our minds, and the way we win it is by identifying what they are and learning to avoid them. And I'm going to add another one. We need to accept the grace of Jesus when He gives it to us, because that is the life of the Christian. Constantly learning what the grace of Jesus means to our lives. Because if you have Jesus, you got everything you need. And if you don't have Jesus, it doesn't matter what you have. You don't have enough. Will you please accept His grace and start fighting this battle to get rid of the strongholds in your life? Father, thank You for this day.